Hello, I'm Joey Haskins, and welcome back to You've Never Seen, in which I showcase a movie you've probably never seen before. This week, we return to another mystery with the character Phillip Marlowe, switching the slums of the 70s to the streets of the 40s in The Big Sleep, a 1946 noir film directed by Howard Hawks and starring Humphrey Bogart as Marlowe and Lauren Bacall, in which Bogart's Marlowe is hired by a wealthy general to close up debts made by his reckless daughter. But his other daughter, played by Bacall, suspects that Marlowe was hired to find the general's protege, who's connected in all of this. Now, one of the biggest criticisms of The Big Sleep is that its plot is all over the place. And yeah, I can kinda agree with that. From the first frame, we are launched right into the movie with no chance to catch our breath. And with several details and even more characters being introduced left and right, it can be hard to keep up with what's going on. But the main reason behind why I recommend this film is Bacall and Bogart. When this was being filmed, the two were already well into their affair, and Bogart was finalizing his divorce from his third wife, which resulted in him heavily drinking and missing several days on set. I'm hesitant to say the affair did work out in their favor, but both Bacall and Bogart were not only together for 12 years, which was the longest relationship either of them had been part of, but they were together until Bogart's death in 1957. But the affair and eventual marriage of the two did sell. And from their chemistry in their first film together to Have and Have Not, which was also directed by Hawks, and the publicized relationship the two had, people wanted more of them together. So much so that a few months after the film came out, Bacall's agent wanted to capitalize on it, asking Warner Bros. To reshoot scenes of The Big Sleep for a second release in 1946, not even a year after the original had come out. By that point, the film had been considered a bomb, and many critics didn't like it for Bacall's acting as well as its convoluted plot. So in the 1946 cut, about 20 minutes was cut from the original film and reshot. Other actors who were cast in the original cut were also not available to film and were either recast or taken out of the film entirely. But the reshoots and re-release was really just a way to draw people in and watch Bogart and Bacall on screen more. And it did work, with the film bringing in nearly twice its budget and being considered a success. However, that means the original cut was more or less discarded. And so, for years, the people who saw The Big Sleep were none the wiser to the fact that there was a cut before the current one. However, people in the filmmaking circle were aware of it, so it became kind of a lost gem. Until the mid-90s, of course. An original cut of the film was found in the UCLA's film archive, and several benefactors, chief among them being Turner Classic Movies, funded its restoration and subsequent re-release into art house theaters for audiences to watch. Nowadays, the film you'd normally find is the original 1945 cut, with the 1946 cut being lost, ironically. And with both cuts now present, many have had debates over which is superior, the 1945 cut or the 1946 cut. Some people prefer the 1946 cut, saying the chemistry between Bogart and Bacall being on full display was a plus to the film, including celebrated critic Roger Ebert, though that didn't stop him from putting the film on his best of list. But some prefer the 1945 cut, saying that while it is slower, it does provide more context to the story of the movie. A story which, again, does confuse you a lot and goes pretty quickly. Halfway through the film, you probably won't even know what's going on. Even when they were filming, nobody knew what was going on. Actors including Bogart would go up to Hawks, asking him who did what in which scene, and he didn't know, forcing him to write a letter to the novel's writer, Raymond Chandler, and he didn't know. The Big Sleep is a film that is all middle and lacking in that beginning and end. But that middle is a very good mystery. And the 1945 cut does have that Bacall and Bogart chemistry that people loved at the time and still love. Like I said, they're the ones who pushed this movie forward, and you can clearly see the beginning of a relationship between two people who were unequivocally in love with each other. There's a particular scene where both characters banter with a phone operator that shows just how good the two play off of each other. Many still criticize the film for its plot and Bacall's acting specifically, but at the same time it is noted as a masterpiece, and with a film that was also written by one of the same people who'd write The Long Goodbye years later, Lee Brackett, it's easy to see why. If you don't like it at first, that's fine, but if you look into the film's history and let it sit with you, and maybe even rewatch it once or twice, you can start to see why many consider it to be one of the greats. You can check out The Big Sleep at your local library. With Western Media Center, I'm Joey Haskins, and I'll see you all next time.